Hello, everyone, and welcome to our most in-depth investigation to date. We journey to the heart of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, to a remote, frozen mountain range where a group of young, brilliant friends met a fate so bizarre and so terrifying it continues to defy explanation. This is not just a story of survival gone wrong. It is a puzzle of impossible injuries, a slashed tent, and a cryptic official conclusion that has fueled speculation for over 60 years. This is the definitive story of the Dyatlov Pass incident, Russia's greatest unsolved mystery. Our story begins not with death, but with the vibrant energy of youth and adventure. It was January 1959 in the city of Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, Russia. A group of 10 friends, mostly students and graduates of the prestigious Ural Polytechnical Institute, were making final preparations for a journey they hoped would be the adventure of a lifetime. This was no amateur outing. They were all experienced Grade 2 hikers, aiming to achieve the coveted Grade 3 certification, the highest honor for hikers in the Soviet Union. Their goal was a grueling 16-day, 300-kilometer ski trek through the unforgiving northern Ural Mountains, culminating in an ascent of Mount Otorten. The group was a picture of youthful Soviet optimism and intellect. The leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, a brilliant radio engineering student and a meticulous, respected expedition leader. He was the glue that held them together. With him was Zinaida Kolmogorova, 22, a fiery and beloved friend whose detailed diary would become a crucial window into their final days. Lyudmila Dubinina, just 20, was known for her courage and powerful singing voice. There was Rustem Slobodin, 23, the group's strongest athlete, Yuri Krivonishenko, 23, the cheerful joker, Yuri Doroshenko, 21, the loyal companion, Alexander Kolovatov, 24, a quiet nuclear physics student, and Nicolas Thibault Brignol, 23, the French-born engineer known for his good humor. Rounding out the group was the oldest and most mysterious member, Semyon Alexander Zolotaryov, a 38-year-old PE instructor and World War II veteran with cryptic tattoos, a man none of the others had known before this trip. And finally, there was Yuri Yudin, 21, the 10th member of the expedition. On January 23rd, the group boarded a train, full of laughter, singing songs, and excitement for the journey ahead. Their early diary entries and photographs paint a picture of perfect camaraderie. They traveled by train, truck, and horse-drawn sleigh to Vizhai, the last inhabited settlement on the edge of the vast, snow-covered wilderness. This was the point of no return. It was here that a twist of fate intervened. Yuri Yudin, who had been suffering from a series of health issues, including sciatica, experienced debilitating pain in his leg. With a heavy heart, he knew he could not.
White expanse. He asked them to send a telegram as soon as they returned, expected around February 12th. It was a poignant farewell that would, by a stroke of bitter luck, make him the sole survivor of the Dyatlov Pass incident. He would be the last person to see them alive. The remaining 9 pushed on. Zina Kolmogorova's diary chronicled their progress. Their spirits were high. They were in their element, battling the elements, skiing through pristine forests, and feeling the profound freedom of the wilderness. They built a small stone shelter, a labaz, to store excess food and equipment for their return journey, a testament to their careful planning and intention to come back. Their cameras captured smiling faces against the backdrop of the majestic, snow-covered mountains. On February 1st, they began the most difficult part of their ascent, heading towards a pass that would lead them to the base of Mount Otorten. The weather, which had been manageable, began to worsen. A blizzard descended, visibility dropped, and strong winds buffeted them. They likely became disoriented, drifting west of their intended path, and finding themselves on the slope of a different mountain. The local Manzi people called this mountain Kholat Syakhl, which translates to Dead Mountain or Mountain of the Dead, due to an ancient legend of 9 Manzi hunters who had perished there. As dusk approached, Faced with deteriorating conditions, Igor Dyatlov made a decision that has baffled investigators ever since. Instead of retreating to the relative safety of the tree line about a mile below, he ordered the group to make camp on the exposed, open slope of the mountain. Why would an experienced leader make such a choice? Perhaps he didn't want to lose the altitude they had fought so hard to gain. Perhaps he wanted to practice camping in harsh grade 3 conditions. Whatever the reason, it was a fateful decision. They pitched their large custom-built tent, ate a meal of bacon and crackers, and settled in for the night, sheltered from the howling wind and sub-zero temperatures. Sometime during the dark, silent hours of that night, an unknown and terrifying event occurred. An event so horrifying it caused these 9 seasoned hikers to do the unthinkable. The 12th of February, the day Dyatlov was supposed to send his telegram, came and went with no word. At first, there was little concern. Delays were common on such ambitious treks. But as the days turned into a week, the families grew frantic. On February 20th, the Institute organized a volunteer search party composed of students and teachers. The military and local mansi hunters soon joined the effort. On February 26th, a search pilot spotted something on the desolate slope of Kholat Syakhl. A ground team was directed to the location. What they found was the beginning of a profound and chilling mystery. There, half buried in snow,
It was bizarrely damaged. One side had been sliced and ripped open, and investigators would later confirm the cuts were made from the inside. A sense of dread filled the search party as they examined the scene. Inside the tent, everything was in a state of eerie order. The group's boots were lined up neatly. Their warm clothes, money, and even their flasks of vodka were left behind. Their skis stood plunged in the snow outside. It was clear that the hikers had fled in a state of extreme panic, cutting their way out of their only shelter and running into a blizzard with temperatures of negative 30 degrees Celsius, without even stopping to put on their shoes. Outside the tent, a trail of footprints led down the steep slope towards the tree line, over a kilometer away. The tracks were puzzling. They showed 8 or 9 sets of prints, some made by socks, some by a single boot, and some by bare feet. The prints descended in an orderly, deliberate fashion, not the chaotic scattering of a group fleeing in terror. It was as if they had walked away calmly from some unseen threat. What could possibly have terrified them so much that facing the Arctic wilderness half naked was the better option? The search party followed the tracks down the slope. The trail led them to the edge of the forest, near a giant Siberian cedar tree. Here, they made their first grim discovery. At the base of the tree were the remains of a small, pathetic fire. And nearby, lying side by side in the snow, were the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They were stripped down to their underwear, their hands were raw and bruised, and the branches of the cedar tree above them were broken up to a height of 5 meters, suggesting they had desperately tried to climb it, perhaps to get a better view or to escape something on the ground. The search continued. Between the cedar tree and the abandoned tent, the team found the next 3 bodies: Igor Dyatlov, Zina Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin. Their position suggested they had been trying to return to the tent. Dyatlov was found clutching a birch branch, his other hand raised as if to shield his face. Slobodin had a small fracture in his skull. All 3 had died of hypothermia. At this point, the tragedy seemed like a case of a group that had panicked, fled their tent for an unknown reason, and frozen to death while trying to get back. But the worst was yet to come. For more than 2 months, the search for the remaining 4 hikers continued. Finally, on May 4th, as the snow began to melt, their bodies were discovered. They were found buried under 4 meters of snow in a den they had dug in a ravine, 75 meters from the cedar tree. And it was here that the mystery of Dyatlov Pass transformed from a tragic accident into a case of high strangeness. These four hikers,
Alexander Kolevatov, had injuries to his neck. Semyon Zolotaryov and Ludmila Dubinina had suffered catastrophic chest trauma. Their ribs were crushed, with a force that one doctor compared to being hit by a car. Yet, impossibly, their bodies showed no external signs of trauma. No cuts, no bruises, no soft tissue damage. It was as if they had been squeezed by an immense, inhuman force. Most bizarre and horrifying of all, Lyudmila Dubinina was found to be missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. The investigation was now confronted with a set of inexplicable facts. Why did the hikers flee their tent? What caused the impossible internal injuries to the final four victims? To add another layer of strangeness, some of the victims' clothing was found to be unusually radioactive, though the levels were low. The official Soviet investigation was abruptly closed in May 1959. The files were classified. The final conclusion was as cryptic as it was unsatisfying. The report stated that the hikers had died as a result of a compelling natural force. The area was sealed off to the public for 3 years. This vague, dismissive conclusion only fueled a half-century of intense speculation and conspiracy theories. What was this compelling natural force? The most widely accepted scientific explanation is a rare type of avalanche, known as a slab avalanche. In this scenario, a slab of compacted snow on the slope above the tent cracked and slid down, not burying the tent in a torrent, but crushing it with immense pressure. This would have caused panic and potential injuries, like Slobodin's skull fracture, forcing the hikers to cut their way out and flee to avoid being buried alive. The internal injuries of the four in the ravine could be explained by the crushing weight of the snow, as they were later caught in a secondary collapse of the ravine's snow overhang. Recent computer models have shown that such an avalanche is plausible, even on a seemingly gentle slope. However, critics of this theory point out that the footprints leaving the tent were orderly, not panicked, and the original investigators found no evidence of an avalanche. Other natural explanations have been proposed. A rare weather event called a katabatic wind could have produced a sudden, terrifying blast of air, forcing the hikers out. Another theory is infrasound, low-frequency sound waves generated by wind patterns around the mountain, which can induce feelings of intense panic, dread, and nausea in humans, causing them to behave irrationally. Then there are the more conspiratorial theories. One of the most popular is that the hikers stumbled upon a secret Soviet military weapons test. The area was a known flight path for R-7 intercontinental ballistic missiles. The concussive blast from a nearby missile or a parachute mine test could explain the crushing internal injuries.
Hashtag at meta, close quote, pause, close quote, 0.05. The orange spheres reported by other hikers and meteorologists in the region around the same time could have been part of such a test. This theory suggests the subsequent cover-up and the compelling natural force conclusion were a deliberate attempt by the KGB to hide a military disaster. Finally, there are the paranormal and UFO theories. The orange spheres are interpreted as alien craft. Believers in this theory suggest the hikers were attacked or frightened by a non-human entity. The strange injuries, the radiation, and Dubinina's missing tongue are cited as evidence of an alien encounter. Local Mansi legends also speak of strange men of the snows in the region. Today, the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident remains unsolved. It is a perfect storm of a mystery, a case where every plausible theory has its own contradictions. The avalanche theory doesn't perfectly explain the footprints. The military theory lacks any declassified proof. The paranormal theories lack any physical evidence. All that remains are the haunting photographs of 9 smiling friends the eerie silence of a slashed tent on a desolate mountainside, and the chilling unanswered questions about the last terrifying hours of their lives. The pass holds its secrets, and the 9 hikers are frozen forever in a story of courage, friendship, and inexplicable terror.